Hello, everyone, and welcome to this virtual session on virtual meetings, what does and does not work. My name is Martin Boyle. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of IAPCO, the International Association of Professional Congress Organisers, and we're delighted to be supporting IT and CM Asia in delivering this educational session for you today. I am absolutely thrilled to have two stalwarts of the meetings industry with us on this panel today. First is Nicole Walker. Nicole is Chief Executive Officer of Arinex with offices in Brisbane, Melbourne, Perth, Sydney, and Auckland in New Zealand. Nicole holds degrees in events and business management and has strong leadership qualities that actually transformed Arinex from, I guess, the traditional PCO model to what they're calling now the DCO, or Digital Conference Organization, this year. We also have with us Jason Ye, who's the Chief Executive Officer at GIS Group based in Taipei. Jason is also the second Vice President of ICA. He's an honorary president of the Taiwan Convention and Exhibition Association and released his first book back in 2016, The Driving Force Behind Destination Marketing. So maybe there'll be future books to follow, Jason. And Jason will be with us shortly when he dials on and joins us after Nicole. So firstly, I'll be presenting on a big picture perspective, some data from IAPCO, our members, what's happening as we transition through this virtual and hybrid space, and some statistics and data from some of our members that are out there and what they're telling us from their clients' perspective. I'll then pass it over to Nicole to give some of her thoughts and some case studies on what has worked and maybe what hasn't worked, as well as from Jason and some of his thoughts on most recent event he's been involved in, and that was the ICA Congress, of course, which I'm sure many of you either participated in or have seen some of the on-demand post-event content. We'll be opening the floor to the virtual floor to questions from all of you, the audience, as we go along. So please feel free to use the Q&A functionality in the platform, but we'll also pause after each of our presentations so that you can ask any questions directly to either of us. And then at the end, of course, we'll open the floor again to have more questions from the audience, because I think it's very important for you to interact with us as we're presenting content to you today as well. So next slide, please. Before we get started, we have a question that we'd just like to pose to the audience so that Nicole and Jason and I can get a better understanding just on who you are out there in the virtual space. So if you could take 2 seconds to just respond in the poll on the functionality in the platform. What type of organization do you work in? Are you from a hotel? Maybe you're an agency, or maybe you're a PCO or a DCO. You're a venue, a service provider. So just take a second or two to respond to that poll if you don't mind. And next slide, please. So I'll take you through a little bit of, as I said, the big picture perspective. And again, next slide. Thank you. So look at IAPCO, to give you an idea of what the core purpose of a professional congress organizer is. And we believe that they bring to fruition the organization of delivery of a congress, a meeting or event in a professional manner. They provide professional consultancy to clients, whether they're corporates, government agencies, or associations, based on their own expertise and their proven track record of delivering congresses time and time again. And they empower their clients. This is very important, empowering their clients to focus on their core role and responsibility while the PCO delivers the event either in the in-person, virtual, or hybrid format for them. And so it's really helping the clients to achieve their overall objective and to facilitate, more importantly than not, the knowledge exchange between the delegates, the speakers, presenters, and also the exhibitors and sponsors that all take place. And to do so, of course, in a competitive and fair price. So I see we have a real mix of CVBs, destination management organizations, meeting professionals, no venues on track, but that's absolutely fine. This is going to be such a relevant topic for each and every one of you that are joining us. So that's great. So thanks for completing that survey for us. So just to give you a little idea of IAPCO pre-COVID, 2019, IAPCO delivered just under 21,500 conferences, meetings, and events by our 135 accredited company members. So each of our PCOs together delivered just under 21,500 meetings and events, and they totaled in value just under 13 billion euros in economic impact into the cities and destinations that they deliver those meetings in. Next slide, please. Of course, COVID hit in 2020. And as we were all fighting to figure out what that's going to look like and how we're going to adjust and how we're going to service our clients, IAPCO reached out to all of our members halfway through the year in July with a coronavirus impact study. We wanted to get some, instead of anecdotal commentary from our members, we wanted some data to discuss and to be able to advocate on behalf of them and the industry as a whole, based on real statistics and real-time data from our members and what's happening. What they were telling us was that less than 50% of the meetings that were booked for 2020 were remaining in 2020. However, majority of those had transitioned into the virtual space. 25 to 50% postponed immediately to 2021, and in fact, some postponed to 2022. Next slide, please. But what's really fascinating is that 97% of our members quickly adjusted. And some of them were in fact offering virtual solutions to clients pre-COVID, but 97% were able now to confirm to us that they were already starting to offer virtual solutions to their clients, whether that be 100% virtual or a mix of virtual and in person for some regions where they could have smaller meetings. Next slide, please. What were they telling us when we asked them what they envisioned it was going to happen 1 year from that particular point in time? So in August of 2020, looking 1 year forward, they were telling us that in person, or those physical events as we traditionally knew them, they were going to drop by 77% across the board. Virtual meetings, however, were going to increase by 81%, and the hybrid solution, the mix of the virtual and in person, was going to increase by 94% 1 year from now. We're already seeing this starting to take place, and in fact, Nicole and Jason will talk about some of their real-time case studies with you shortly. One of our members, Ken's group, recently surveyed just under, I think it was around 800 healthcare professionals to find out specifically what was important to them once they decided to attend a virtual congress. Keeping in mind this was healthcare professionals, so medical, scientific meetings. However, we're hearing similar results from other sectors and other industries out there. And what was really important for those healthcare professionals was that content availability for several months after the event. So this idea of recording content, repackaging, and making it available to delegates on demand, whether they attended the virtual event live or whether they were unable to attend the virtual event live, but then had access to it on demand post broadcast. Education content was pre-recorded, but also live. And what was also important to them was that there were online discussions and chats that were able to take place. So this connectivity with the presenters and the audience to be able to connect through platforms during the event and then post the event if possible as well. Next slide, please. And also what they were hearing back from their healthcare professionals with respect to engagement with exhibitors and sponsors was that they still wanted to have that live Q&A or that live session with the exhibitors and sponsors through some sort of online activities. And that some of the sessions from exhibitors could be presented pre-recorded sessions, but still they wanted that connectivity live when they were attending in a live space. The chat functionality, of course, is important, but this whole matchmaking for networking wasn't as important as the live Q&A and the one-to-one interactivity and connection with exhibitors. Next slide, please. So if you look at IAPCO is a not-for-profit association. We, of course, like many associations out there, medical, academic, scientific, we have had to transition and deliver all of our educational content instead of in person. And we've had to move to the virtual space as well. However, we've found some successes in doing so. What have we found? Well, in 2020 alone, it has provided us with access to a new and diverse audience. We produce a number of new initiatives and virtual educational content that has opened up a channel of communication to a whole new audience that are not our members, that are not within our IAPCO ecosystem or our IAPCO family. So it's been a tremendous success for us to increase our coverage. We've been able to drive new membership interest because we're able to deliver our content on an international stage without having to leave the confines of our offices and our home offices. So this has opened a whole new opportunity for us to increase both membership engagement of our current members, but also interest from potential future members for IAPCO. It's allowed us to deliver really fresh content in very short term, which has been very, very valuable to our members in the industry as a whole. As things are shifting and changing so rapidly, in order for us as a not-for-profit association to be able to help our members and the meetings industry understand these changes and adapt to these changes, we have had to provide content, and it has to be fresh, it has to be relevant and important to what's happening today. So delivering some of these sessions in this virtual platform has enabled and empowered us to do that. We're able to repackage, similar to what I said previously with the healthcare professionals. We can repackage some of our content, make it available on demand after it's broadcast initially. And as a not-for-profit association, we rely on partly some of our partners, our commercial partners. And it's provided us an opportunity to share their message through the virtual space to some of these audiences as well, and new channels of communication for them. So for us as a not-for-profit, in all honesty, it's been a little bit of a challenge, but with the mindset and the agility to be able to shift and produce and deliver some of this virtual content for us as an association, we've seen some successes from it so far. So I wanted to give you a big perspective. I know I rushed through those, but I hope it sort of set the scene for what Nicole is going to speak about and Jason's going to talk about as well. But before I throw to Nicole, just if there's any questions specifically that anyone has that you've put into the live Q&A, I don't see any up there just now, but if there's any that anyone has just now, please feel free to pop them up into the Q&A and we'll come back to them later on. Okay. So I'll throw over to Nicole now. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Martin, and it's a pleasure to be here today with you all. So we thought we'd kick off my section of the presentation with a second question. So if we could bring up the next poll, please. And the question is, what is the biggest challenge that you all face with the virtual and hybrid meetings? So is it convincing the client to go virtual? Is it the potential loss of revenue? Because we are seeing that fully virtual events are significantly lower in revenue generation. Is it understanding the technology, and we're being completely overwhelmed with different technology offerings at the moment, and trying to decide which one is the best for your particular event is a challenge in itself. Is it your own staff and their experiences and being able to educate them or train them in the respective products? Or is it the general cost of the technology? And especially when you're looking at hybrid, that cost can certainly increase, if not double or triple as a result. So we'll come back to the results shortly. But I'll just move on to the next slide and mention that, you know, for my part of the presentation, I will be focusing on the what does and doesn't work of hybrid and virtual events. And like Martin, I encourage you to add comments or ask questions through the live Q&A because, you know, we're all in this together. We're all experiencing this transition together as well. And through the knowledge sharing, such as at this event, can we improve on our offerings to our clients and within the industry. So if we just take a moment to pause and reflect, because we've all been exposed to a significant number of new terminology over the last couple of months, and just look at the different types of virtual events that we are exposed to. So you've got the standard virtual event, you've got a hybrid, and then you can start looking at hub and spoke style events, and Jason will touch on that with ICA, where you have different hubs either within a country or globally where people can meet from a local perspective, but then connect to the international or national audience through the virtual platform. And then you have satellite meetings that can be connected, as well as general webinars. And I think all too often our clients are confusing a standard webinar with a fully virtual or hybrid immersive event, and working to educate the clients on what the differences are is very challenging. And it's very hard for them to fully understand how much work goes into a fully virtual event. So if we just look back at the poll and the challenges that we're all experiencing, we can see that 41% of you all said the cost of technology, followed closely behind the potential loss in revenue. So the two financial implications seem to be the dominant impacts and challenges that you're all facing. And I know that as a professional conference organizer, or a digital conference organizer, as we're now referring to ourselves, that is certainly an ongoing challenge as well. So hopefully throughout this presentation, we can touch on some of the critical elements for consideration that will help you one, increase that revenue due to marketing and structuring the pricing well for your event, but then also looking at reducing those costs through being as efficient as possible with the different offerings that you have. I did think that we'd just take a moment to pause and play a brief video. I feel like all of us, irrespective of where we're coming from, hotels, bureaus, etc., we can all relate to this video. So I hope you enjoy it for your morning session.
Never mind, I got it. Just had to change a few settings.
Great. Maybe we can get started then. Oh, great.
I think your mic is picking up your speakers.
My mic?
Do you have headphones?
You want me to put them on?
No, I want you to smell them. No, I want you to put them on. Hey, Beth.
Hey, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I had to download a new version of the platform.
You should plan extra time for the updates. There's pretty much one every time.
Sounds like someone just joined.
Hey guys, it's John. I had to call in. I'm stuck in traffic. Have I missed anything yet?
No, it would have been nice for you to join the rest of us, but we'll see you when you get home. All right, while everyone is here, finally, Tyler, do you have that financial report?
Well, it's been the last few weeks updating our books, and I got some great news for you. Schedule from this point last year. We had a great Q1.
We lost Tyler, I think.
Am I frozen?
Hey, Trip, I think we lost Tyler.
Yeah, I know, we lost Tyler.
Hey guys, it sounded like Tyler was cutting out.
We know, John.
In early 2020, we are still experiencing a number of those issues and challenges, especially when taking our events virtual. And whilst in a face-to-face conference, the technical glitches, which happen all too often, can be easily masked or covered up, or you can work around them. When you are looking at a fully virtual event, it is certainly much more of a challenge to be able to work around those technical glitches. And I know, having spoken at a number of conferences, it's a very different experience when you're sitting in your office and presenting to a global audience, in comparison to really being there and having the support of your MC, of your chairperson, of the technical team, and also the incredible team that have brought the event together. So you do have to rely very much on technology in ensuring that everything goes well. So if we look at what does not work, There are a number of different elements that are slowly evolving as a result of the number of virtual events that are taking place. And it's very obvious that the Zoom fatigue is a very important factor that you need to try and overcome through your conferences. So making sure that you don't have back-to-back sessions, trying to have engagement throughout your presentation. And, you know, we've been trying in this presentation to have polls and videos and interactive elements to keep people engaged, but then also making sure that the sessions don't go on for too long. And certainly in the last couple of months, we've seen a reduction from a standard 60-minute presentation to more of a 45-minute presentation, to give that 15-minute buffer for people to get up, stretch their legs, go and make a cup of tea, or perhaps something even stronger, depending on the time of day that you are logging into the event. And by no means can anyone take the approach that one person can manage the whole experience. I mean, just in this session alone, we have a range of team behind the scenes supporting us, and it wouldn't be possible without all of them assisting in different ways, because there's too many components for one person to possibly manage on their own. So on the other side, what does work, and making sure that there's alternative content, that you're designing it for the online environment. And when you start looking at hybrid events, that's when it does get even more complex, because you need to have a different strategy and approach for the physical attendees and for the virtual, and I'll come to that shortly. When looking at going virtual, there's the 6 Ps, the 5 Ps, and then the final reporting that needs to be considered. And there are so many different elements that need to be factored into virtual attendance. Again, I'll touch on a case study a little bit later, but one of the first things that we realized with a hub and spoke event was that whilst the lighting within a room may be perfect for the physical attendees, when it was broadcast onto a screen, that lighting was actually the completely wrong lighting for a virtual telecast or broadcast. And so making sure that even the audiovisual staff within the venues are briefed on what those lighting requirements need to be. Making sure that the speaker knows what color backdrop they will have, because you don't want someone to wear a white jacket whilst presenting behind a white background, because they will then completely blend out and be very challenging to see on the screen. Looking at lots of different things, such as, you know, okay, well, how will it be recorded? What will the screen backgrounds be? Do you have the ability for Zoom backgrounds on the platform? And if so, are you going to send them those backgrounds prior to ensure that they have those uploaded? And then also just preparing for the technical trial and error phase. And you can't rehearse enough for these virtual events, especially during this initial adoption stage of them, and making sure that everyone understands how they need to frame themselves within their camera angle, what positioning, which screen they need to use for the different pieces of information, because you don't want to be casting your eyes all over the room. You need to be trying to engage with the camera. So a lot of information that needs to be shared with each of the speakers. And unless they're all television broadcasters, then it is certainly a new experience for them, which you need to walk them through when designing your event. I thought I'd just touch on an analogy which I find to be really effective when trying to communicate with clients, and that is the Olympic Games analogy. The Olympic Games are a phenomenal event. They've been going on for many, many years, and they have a very workable and successful model. Now, you have both the physical attendees and you have the television broadcast attendees, and you need to have two very different strategies for both those demographics and both of those marketing focuses. So that's a different marketing strategy, a different sponsorship and exhibition strategy, and in some cases, a completely different program. You may have different commentators that are speaking to the virtual attendees as opposed to the physical attendees, because the communications that you need to portray are different for those two audiences. So when we are looking at how hybrid events should work, we always pause and reflect on events such as the Olympics for Australians. The Melbourne Cup was a great example, because this year was the first year that we had no physical attendees at the event, and all attendees or spectators were virtual. So showing how you can quickly pivot, dare I say, to accommodate for the challenges that certain countries, states, cities are experiencing as a result of COVID. The event that I wanted to touch on briefly was the Turn of Events, Bringing Business Events Back showcase. So we really wanted to demonstrate how hybrid and hub and spoke events could work within Australia, because there are different rules and regulations and border restrictions even within states in Australia, which is very challenging. The challenge that we had was that in Australia, 96% of all business events that were scheduled this year were either cancelled or postponed. And after 6 months of no physical events due to our very tight lockdown restrictions, we really needed to educate the industry and our clients that we could continue business events in a COVID-safe environment. And we needed to physically demonstrate or virtually demonstrate how that was possible to provide confidence back to our clients so that they could confidently plan for their events, irrespective of the situation with respect to the pandemic. So what we did was we engaged with 26 industry partners across Australia. We had 6 different locations, hubs, in each of the capital cities. Unfortunately, Melbourne went into a second lockdown, and therefore that hub had to transition to a fully virtual hub. But again, because of the structure of the event, we were very easily able to do that without having to postpone, change the structure or anything like that. So even that was a great way to showcase how the events could still continue. We managed to pull the event off in 8 short weeks, and I know that the team here at Arinex never want us to come up with a concept like that with such a short lead time again, and we certainly recommend a longer lead time for transitioning events virtually. But we were then able to facilitate this keynote and plenary and panel sessions through the on-air platform, which you're experiencing today, and live streaming it to all of the virtual attendees and the different hubs. So we had just shy of 500 attendees in all of those different locations. So it was the biggest face-to-face business event in 2020 for Australia. It was streamed, as I said, globally. We had a number of our IAPCO partners joining us across the world. We had 20 guest speakers, and we reached over 100,000 on social media. So the biggest takeaway from it, though, was that 90% of the attendees said that hybrid events were here to stay, and that they felt more confident in turning their event hybrid as a result of our event. We've just summarised some frequently asked questions here because I'm sure you're all being asked the same questions. And as your challenges showed with respect to financials, the top question that we're continually asked is the cost of hosting a virtual or hybrid event. And then also all about networking and return on investment. So it just shows that clients are very focused on the financials, which is understandable, but then the engagement piece is the second element that they're really focusing on. And if we have time at the end, then it would be great to unpack some of these frequently asked questions with you. So that concludes my part of the presentation, and I'm just going to hand back to Martin to see if there are any questions at this stage.
Thanks, Nicole. No questions from the audience, but I have a question for you, if you don't mind. Yeah, and you said we might touch on it later on, but I'm quite interested, and I know based on the statistics that you have there and the feedback from those that you spoke to about the networking or the connectivity side of things. How do you see that connectivity or the networking capability in the virtual space happening? We're certainly hearing at IAPCO that's one of the challenges that people are faced with. You know, if they're buying into the virtual meeting platform, but they're still wondering about this ability to network with their peers. How have you seen that come together, and what did you guys do at that event?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And you know, I think when you look at a physical event, networking happens intrinsically. People are drawn to each other, they start engaging in conversations, and one thing leads to another, and you've had some really in-depth discussions. By not having that physical presence, then you detract from that ability to quickly start up a conversation. And so there are different networking opportunities within different platforms, and that comes back to ensuring that you choose the right platform for the objectives of your event. And if networking is something that is really critical, then there are certain platforms that help enable that more. For example, the on-air platform that we're using today has a networking or a speed dating functionality, which we used at our event. And so whilst the people physically attending each hub had their networking drinks and canapes at the event, at the end of the event, we then had a virtual networking opportunity where people were connected with 3, 4, 8 of the other attendees within a forum-like situation. Everyone's cameras were on, and they were able to spend a couple of minutes discussing certain topics. You, in this particular example, you're then forced out of that after a set predetermined time frame, and you can then join in again and be randomly assigned a new group of people. So it's a great way to bring you together with a small group of the virtual attendees and start building up relationships. But what we are seeing is that the onus or the ability of networking is really transitioning from the attendee to the digital conference organisers that are running the event. And it's up to us to create those networking opportunities, both for delegates, but also for exhibitors as well. You don't get that foot traffic past your booth. And so it's up to the association or the DCO to create those ways to help networking. And again, we're seeing it today with the gamification and the points that you're able to receive for taking part in different activities. So lots of different ideas, but it's certainly a lot of extra work to help facilitate that networking virtually.
Yeah, that's great. And I think the really interesting thing is it allows organizations and PCOs, DCOs to be really creative, I think, to try something different now, isn't it? So as opposed to the traditional drinks reception, for example, that we're all used to, let's be really creative and come up with some really out there ideas, because right now is the time to test all of these out there ideas and see what works, and have some fun with it as well, and have some fun with the delegates and the exhibitors and sponsors to be able to do that. So no, that's really interesting. Thanks so much. Shall we throw over to Jason now? Jason from GIS Group, who's going to discuss with us his recent experiences as, I guess, host, Jason, of the ICA Congress. But before we throw to Jason, we have another question, just a final question to ask the audience there. And if you can look at your poll.
Yeah, the question is the hybrid event going mainstream? Do you think the hybrid event meetings will be the trend for the future for our industry? Wow, 100%.
That's clear.
Okay, I just like Nicole just say that the hybrid event is not something new. It's like a very good example is Olympics. Olympics do the physical one, and they also run a virtual one, so many people can viewing the event globally, and actually with the virtual one, they get a lot more sponsorship for their events. And back to, let's say, 3 months ago, I cannot imagine how can I run the first ever hybrid event for ICA Congress, because we have a very, a debate among the ICA board. Should we run the ICA Congress as usual when we still in May, I think in April and May. And the other thing for the local host committee is the Kaohsiung City, they just have a new mayor election in August. So everything, it just came together and make the decision is quite hard to move things forward before 2 months ago. So at the end, I think it was very brave and brilliant decision for ICA to decide to go for it with the local host committee to host ICA Congress in Kaohsiung. And next slide, please. So just give you some next slide, Nicole. Yeah. Yes. So just give you some feature of this Congress. I think it's the first ICA Congress held in the hybrid format in his history, and it's the first time, because for the opening ceremony, and ICA decided to open the online viewing to everyone, even you don't register on Sunday program. And then we are lucky to have 300 participants, and mainly they are all Taiwanese members, but only one ICA friends actually he packed through the 14-day quarantine and joined us in Kaohsiung. So we have 3,500 viewers online, and the total attendee, because then ICA make it a hybrid event and also decentralized into different hubs around the globe. Not in Asia Pacific, not only Kaohsiung. Kaohsiung is the main site for the Congress. Then we have in Kuching, in Sarawak, there's another hub. In Seoul is another hub in the Asia Pacific region in the same time zone. Then I think we have another one in Luxembourg, another one in Malacca, and the other one in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. So around the globe, we have so many hubs together. In total, we reached the 1,500 registered attendees. I think is the highest number we had in for ICA event. Although there are some people they register for Kaohsiung events, some people they register only virtually. There's some people they register for the hub event in Europe. And we have our opening ceremony in a way in Opera House, and because we at the end we cannot get James Rees, the president of ICA, to be with us in Taiwan, and then we make a decision to have him with a hologram with us for the opening ceremony. And so we also think about how we engage the attendee and participant around the globe and make people feel they are part of the Congress. It's not only the local participants. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So actually, the ICA, is used to be a physical event and go to virtual and go to hybrid. The challenge we had, we need to make some changes, just like Nicole mentioned. We need to change it in form, in the format, the content and the in experiences. Next slide, please. So I think the idea is quite similar, like the Tech Talk. They always have a centralized event in San Francisco, and they have a very many different event in different city. So in this format, in the morning we have the Kaohsiung program, and which is produced by the local host committee. And the other, in the afternoon, we go to the central one is the program produced by ICA headquarters. Next slide, please. And about the content, in the past, normally the ICA headquarters they make all the decision about the content, about the topic, about the speaker, but because of the different time zone, because we have the morning section in Kaohsiung, and because actually within 3 months they don't have too much resources in terms of the manpower and time to create another program for the Kaohsiung morning section. So they decided to authorize us to create the local program for Kaohsiung for the Asia Pacific region. So the content itself is more localized. For example, we create some topic is more focused on the Asia Pacific region. For example, we're talking about how this impact, how this pandemic impact in terms of the individual person, in terms of the company, in terms of our industry. So we separate these three topics in different sections. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And the way, please, the previous slide. Yes, thank you. And also the challenge we have is how can we share the experience, for the online viewer for the opening ceremony. So we need to hire another camera team, very professional one who are used to do some TV program on site to make the program is more easy, more attractive for the online viewer. So you can see that's the performance we had talking about the story of Taiwan, and then we have the hologram with the James Rees and with the mayor of the Kaohsiung City and the Minister of the Economy Affairs in Taiwan. So we need to think about how people see the event happen through the camera. Next slide, please. And the other challenge is how can we share the authentic cuisine with the audience, because there is a pandemic regulation applied in Taiwan. So such a roundtable dinner is not so suitable for a gathering, especially in the pandemic period of time. So we decided to make a roundtable, but it's only for the YouTuber to introduce people online how we celebrate a fest when we celebrate something in Taiwan. And as you can see, for the food stew, not only people can get the food on your the right hand side picture, and in the picture in the left hand side corner, we also demonstrate what kind of food it is. It's a kind of fish, a fried fish. So with that, we can show the people online what the cuisine is. We want them to have some authentic feeling what they can have when they are in Taiwan next time, and what kind of cuisine we have, although they cannot really taste it. Next slide. So what we think about is we have a team of 2 YouTubers from our colleague. The gentleman is called Adam. He's from Poland and Nate. They are busy with doing all the YouTubing during entire event with the live stream to communicate with the online viewer, online participants. Next slide. And for the Monday morning wake up section, and we think we need to, because it's a long period of time for all our ICA colleagues didn't get together, and I believe everybody miss each other a lot. So we just create a kind of idea to have an online team building and to create an online interaction experience. What we have is we hire a team in Singapore, and then they create a song together with the online attendees, with the Kaohsiung and other people. They are online to create a song. We call it a song for Kaohsiung, and I think people feel very, very energetic and happy to create a song all together and enjoy some interaction online with others, ICA friends. Next slide, please. Yeah, and I also think a lot of invitation to have our ICA members and friends like Martin as well to send their video, and we do the video clipping, and also the Nicole. And thank you for both of you for your support to send your video, and we do a video clipping, and we play the video clipping during different section. Actually, in total, I think we have 11 video, and we have 70 people all engaged this kind of video creation, and it really makes the local participants feel we are not alone. We have kind of intimacy with those people participate in this kind of video clipping, and I also believe it also created kind of feeling for online viewer. They feel, oh, I saw so many familiar faces and friends on this video, so it create another different intimacy. Yeah, next slide, please. So as you can see, for ICA, they still charge for the online participants for the virtual meetings, and the fee, I would say, is not that it's somehow is less expensive, but however they still a certain kind of fee. And at the very beginning, many people doubt how can we reach the target of the number of the attendees, and because nowadays there are so many virtual event, virtual meeting, they are running for free, and how can ICA to attract people to register for the ICA Congress within, like, let's say 500 euro or 400 euros? It's a lot of money, but at the end, I think we reach a very good number. In total, we have 1,500 registered who pay the registration fee. This is something we can think about it, how people want to join the virtual meeting, how much they are going to pay for the events. Next slide, please. Yeah, so what's the meeting look like? Actually, I think is we really what we learned from the ICA Congress is we need more new talent. As you can see on the control area, it's like more than 10 laptops. We need people who are more familiar with the IT technology, information technology background. We have more talent in our team to have more knowledge about how to make a TV program from the camera with the camera and team. And actually nowadays in Taiwan, most of the meeting they just went virtual or hybrid. I think most of them they went hybrid. So it takes more. I would say for our experience, we need to put more human resources into the preparation for the hybrid event, because it's more coordination, is more challenge to organize a hybrid event than a very simple physical event. And there's a lot of demand in the market at this moment, but I don't know the other country what's the demand from the market for the hybrid event. But in Taiwan nowadays, it's a lot of demand for the past 3 months. I would 3 months. I would say in this way. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's the end of my my presentation. I just share with you a quote. The urge from the destruction is also a creative urge. So I think we all need to be creative and find a way out and try to survive, try to continue our business in the future. Thank you.
Jason, thank you so much for that. It's really interesting looking at the case study of the very recent ICA Congress, as well as the turn of events that Nicole spoke about. And one of the fascinating things, Jason, you were highlighting there was, Nicole spoke about the platforms that we use to deliver the virtual congresses, but you were speaking also about other technologies that are out there that are available, and how you have teams delivering on the other technologies that link into the platforms as well, the likes of YouTube, and using YouTube as a vehicle for communication for your hub and spoke meeting that was taking place. So I think that's really interesting, and people can learn a lot from trying these technologies out and having, you know, the young meeting professionals in our teams that, you know, are out there and excited to be part of a project as well, to engage through the likes of YouTube. I think it's a real positive step for them. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
What was one of the, I know you had a lot of volunteers involved, Jason, in delivering ICA. So a lot of the content delivered by volunteers. Was that a challenge in coordinating all of that and getting the buy-in from them and managing all the expectations? Or do you think it worked very well because it's the ICA community, so to speak, and the reliance on having the community there?
And actually, we, as a local host committee PCO, we only in charge for the morning section, the Kaohsiung section. And actually, we didn't do it by volunteers. We do it by ourselves, which means we create our own content. So from the very beginning, we have like 2 days workshop to invite some specialists with us to discuss what kind of topics should we deliver for the Kaohsiung Congress, and so it seems like the PCO become a content producer, and then we reach out for those speakers we can approach, because it's very hard to find some speaker fly into Taiwan, but so we try to do our best to find the local speakers who live in Taiwan at that moment. So we found the head of digital transformation of Daimler, the Benz, the car, the Benz Mercedes. He just happened to live in Taiwan during the period of time we had him as part of one of our panelists, and we have other speakers to join us. But I think it's very interesting experience for me. In the past, I think normally the PCO didn't play a very important role for the content creation. Normally, you know, our client, they have no idea who I'm going to invite and what kind of topic I want to deliver. But in this time, I think we have full hand of the power to make the decision what kind of content we are going to deliver. I think it's very exciting for our team and myself.
Yeah, well done. Congratulations. I think we're probably seeing that across the board, and that the PCO, I mentioned earlier, is more of a consultant, a professional consultant to the clients. And we're seeing that the PCOs are maybe engaging more at that level and helping to drive some of the thought behind the content as well with the client. So So that's really interesting. Look, I'm conscious we're running short on time, so there's just one final slide I'd like to share with the audience if I can, just on sort of wrapping up what Nicole's spoken about and what Jason's identified in his presentation as well. And it's really about sort of what's next, right? So what is the meeting design going to look like? So we've sort of encapsulated this onto one slide, and if we can just share that with the audience now. And Jason and Nicole and I spoke about the virtual, and the virtual is the must in the immediate short term. And we're seeing the delivery of virtual meetings through platforms like what we're doing and delivering today. But hybrid is certainly going to be the default moving forward, and we saw that from the poll, right? And we've also seen it from some of the statistics that we've received back from IAPCO members, but also the community at large. And this hub and spoke concept, similar to what ICA has done, but also what Nicole spoke about with the Turn of Events event, where you have, a hub gathering with the content, but then all these other hubs connected to the content as well, delivering content back and forth. But fundamentally behind it all is that it has to be delivered professionally, and that the content must be of high quality, and that you're pulling on expert speakers. And the ability to pull on expert speakers in this virtual and hybrid format is much easier now, because those expert speakers don't necessarily need to travel for 2 or 3 days in order to commit to attend to speak at an event. They can actually do so like we're doing from our home offices or our physical offices just now. We have seen from both Nicole and Jason, of course, that delegates are willing to pay. They're willing to pay to attend the virtual and the hybrid meetings, as long as the content is of high value, and they see that they're going to get a return on that from the education that's provided. So don't assume that content has to be free if you're delivering in a virtual platform. Content is of value, and content should be charged for. And again, we spoke a little bit about this interactivity and the ability for the audience to connect with the speakers and the presenters, and vice versa. And we've done that through the likes of the poll and questions and answers between us. But also the flexibility. What we're seeing is that, delegates are actually waiting until the last minute to register for meetings and events when they're delivered in a virtual or hybrid format, because they're looking at the program and wanting to make sure that the program and the level of speakers that are delivered are at a very high standard. So one of the models that we're seeing is that delegate registrations are not happening as soon as you launch your program. They continue to drip feed, even right up to about half hour before the event goes live. And we've sort of seen this morning as well, with the delegates and the attendees that have joined us through the course of this last 45, 50 minutes, have joined us in and out. And that's just natural. But it's been very interesting. Jason, Nicole, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your insights with us and with the audience. It's been really interesting to take those real case studies of recent events that have been delivered in different parts of the world and sort of assess them and analyze them a little bit deeply. We've actually had, I looked through a little bit of some of the discussion forum. We have people joining us from India, from the States, from Philippines, from Australia. So, you can just see this international community dialing into these sorts of educational opportunities. So this, again, is a testament to, I guess, the power of the tools that are available at our disposal and the community that we can build internationally, but sharing the content locally as well, which I think is really important for us to do. So it's been great to have the participation of that audience. So I guess on behalf of Jason, Nicole, and myself, to the audience, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. To IT and CMA, thank you very much for inviting IAPCO to be part of the session today. Wish you a continued successful event delivery. And I guess everyone take care. Thank you, Jason. Final words. Nicole, final words. A quick wave to the audience.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Everyone, all the best. Take care of each other. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.